I'm sorry I haven't posted an immediate reaction to WWDC like I usually do every year, because I really had to sit down and think about this one. Because while I am excited to see Apple announce improvements to all of their operating systems and announce features that give us a hint at rumored hardware, and how they finally showed off a version of Siri that looks like a good experience and actually works, well, I left the presentation feeling a little uneasy about some of the decisions Apple has reversed their stance on, and Apple doubling down on some trends that I find overall pretty concerning. First, let's focus on the positive. I'm a positive guy. I like to spread joy. I prefer to talk about things I like, not things I don't like, which is usually why I don't cover like Windows or a lot of like Android stuff, because I don't use Android. I don't want to use Android, and hopefully we're not turning into Android here. One of the things I did like is that Apple is refining all of the new operating systems, and they're not that heavy on new features. Now, while watching the presentation, I'll admit at certain points I was a little bored because of this, but out of the gate, Apple highlighted some pretty insane improvements coming to their operating systems, like up to 30% faster app launches, up to 70% loading of new captures and photos, up to 5 times faster browsing and transferring files for iPadOS, and up to 80% faster AirDrop transfers. And the software improvements are so good that all of the betas I'm running on my devices seem incredibly fast and stable, which is usually not the case for the day one developer betas. And that goes for all the new operating systems like iPadOS, macOS, visionOS, maybe watchOS. They really didn't talk about it all that much. I mean, they showed off like this new UI. I don't understand why they didn't talk about that. But yeah, pretty much all of these operating systems are basically getting the same speed improvements and fixes. Now, there are some changes I mixed on. As a liquid glass fan, I like that they added a slider so users can choose how glassy or frosted they want liquid glass to be. But at the same time, I'm afraid they're walking back some of their design decisions in liquid glass that I personally liked. But to be fair, I know a lot of people don't like liquid glass, so I guess they're listening to their audience there, but I'm not in favor of all of it. Still, I am happy to see certain things fixed, like the corner radius of windows on macOS 27. It was really annoying having some apps have a different corner radius, so that is so much better. And I may be the only person still using a Vision Pro, but I love how you can take your own panorama photos and set them as a custom environment. If anyone has a panorama photo of the inside of the Steve Jobs Theater, please email me. I want to pretend that's where my office is. I want to work inside the Steve Jobs Theater. It is kind of crazy that despite the lack of new features, that these betas had giant file sizes if you wanted to update to them. So if you're thinking about updating, or if you're waiting until September, which is probably a good idea, it's also a good idea to free up space and optimize your Mac, which is why you should check out Clean My Mac with its cleanup features. It can clear unnecessary system cache or junk files which are left over from broken downloads or duplicate files, letting you free up space without guessing what's safe to remove. I also love features like Space Lens, so I can visualize exactly how my storage is being used, and I can manage the largest files on my Mac without any guesswork. And Clean My Mac can utilize all of these advanced features, as well as scanning your Mac for viruses or threats, and letting you know how to optimize your Mac's performance with just a simple SmartCare scan. So you don't have to waste time babysitting your Mac, and you can get back to using your Mac at full speed. Because your Mac should keep up with you, not the other way around. So get tidy today by trying Clean My Mac with a free 7-day trial, and then use my code GregsGadgets for 20% off. And thank you to Clean My Mac for sponsoring this video. Now, there were a few more changes to these operating systems, but the biggest change, and the one that Apple spent the most time going over, are the new Apple Intelligence features, and of course, the new Siri AI. Siri AI is a weird name. Why not just call it Siri? And let's start with the good news first. With Apple now using Google's Gemini model in combination with Apple's own foundation models, it appears that the promise they made 2 years ago of delivering a smarter Siri is finally gonna happen. I'm still on the wait list, but in September, it should definitely happen. Now, they ran through a lot of demos showcasing how Siri has a broader knowledge base, can understand personal context, can take actions in apps, it has on-screen awareness so it knows what you're looking at, and now you can legitimately ask Siri questions like, when will my mom's flight land? And it should be able to give you an accurate answer. Also, bravo to whoever came up with that user interface design using the dynamic island for Siri. That is such a cool user interface and made all of these demos seem even more impressive and more fluid. Unfortunately, like I said, I have not been able to test this new Siri yet. Still on that waitlist for some reason. I don't know why I'm on the waitlist, Apple. I'm not bitter about it, but based on what I can see online for users who did get accepted, I'm not jealous, but they say it seems to be working pretty well so far and is definitely a huge improvement over the previous versions of Siri. There's also some other things Apple Intelligence can do, like being able to describe a web extension to it that you want, and it can automatically make it for you, and Apple Intelligence being able to automate shortcuts just by, again, using your natural language. You don't have to actually go through the steps to make a shortcut, which actually can be pretty involved. So Apple making these things easier, I think, is a good thing, and all of the stuff that Apple really announced with Apple Intelligence and Siri for this section seem to be good. Like, this is what AI is good at. This is what AI should be used for, in my opinion. It should be used as a way to help you quickly get information or help users navigate through more complex tasks. Hopefully it's accurate though and doesn't suffer the problems I usually have with other chatbots or other implementations with AI where it can often get factual details wrong. And I really hope this Siri doesn't dish out any sort of advice. Like, if you're constantly asking AI for advice, I have some news for you. It's usually just telling you what you want to hear. Like, you don't actually look that good in that jacket. Oh, well, I look good in my jacket. It's why I'm wearing it a lot in my videos. Blue brings out my eyes. Now, if the event ended there, it would have been fine. A little AI heavy, but fine. But then we got to the bad part of the keynote. And this really surprised me because Apple changed some of their stances that they held previously on how they use generative AI. You see, when Apple Intelligence was first announced, part of that announcement was two generative AI tools, Image Playgrounds and Genmoji. Now, 2 years ago, which seems like a lifetime ago in the span of AI development, all of this stuff felt pretty harmless, especially at the time, right? Like, Apple's implementation was so unrealistic and, quite frankly, just kind of bad that it really didn't offend me. And even ideas like Genmoji, I thought were okay, like a harmless use of generative AI. And it seemed like Apple took that stance. Apple's Senior Vice President of Software Engineering, Craig Federighi, did an interview around that time with Joanna Stern saying, "When you look at experiences like Image Playground, we made sure that the images we were generating were not photorealistic. Not because the underlying model couldn't generate something photorealistic, but because we never wanted someone to have any confusion of whether Joanna was really wearing that fuzzy hat." Yeah, about that. So now Apple has updated Image Playgrounds, improving how it can generate images, and obviously it can now do a more realistic job generating these images. And I don't get it. I don't understand why Apple wants to be in this space. I don't understand why they want to make an image generation app. First of all, I don't think they'll ever be ahead of other AI companies out there with this technology. So it will always be like the worser version of this. Is that a word? Worser? Additionally, there's just so much backlash right now against AI image generation. Like, there's a term called AI slop because people don't like this. And I feel like Apple could have taken the moral high ground here and said that AI image generation is kind of getting too real. People are making deep fakes, scams, and all of these other concerning images without people's consent. And they could have said, we are not interested in being in that space. We are getting rid of Image Playgrounds. We don't want to contribute to all the AI slop that's out there. And I think if they took that stance, a lot of users would quite frankly applaud them for that decision. I feel like a lot of Apple users are creative people, and I feel like a lot of creative people don't like the use of AI image generation. Unfortunately for me, it kind of gets worse because Apple is also reversing a stance that they had regarding AI in photography. You see, Android companies for the past few years have been using AI generation in their photo tools. I think the most infamous example of this is Samsung faking moonshots, which they rightfully got made fun of for. Apple itself had an AI feature in the initial Apple Intelligence rollout called Cleanup. But even though this used AI, I always viewed this more as a tool to help remove things similar to the way you could do using existing tools in Photoshop, just easier for normal people to use. And yeah, that's kind of what it was, and that's how Apple felt about it at the time. In fact, Craig Federighi felt exactly the same way. Play the clip.
Yeah, I would say even the ability to remove that water bottle is one that there were a lot of debates internally. Do we want to make it easy to remove that water bottle or that mic? Because that water bottle was there. We are concerned that there's a great history to photography and how people view photographic content as something they can rely on as indicative of reality. And our products, our phones, are used a lot. And it's important to us that we help purvey accurate information, not fantasy.
Yes, this is the right stance. A photo should be a photo. It shouldn't depict things that weren't there. Well, in iOS 27, Apple has updated the cleanup tool. Now, it is better at removing things, but it also does something kind of creepy, similar to what other Android phones are already doing, where, let's say I obstruct my face and then I go to use the cleanup tool, well, then Apple will generate a new face. Look at this example I did on myself. I think this is really creepy how it decided to recreate my face with generative AI. This is, to me, no longer a photo. On top of that, Apple has two new AI editing tools directly in the Photos app. One of them is a pretty simple expand feature where you can resize your photo to extend it. Again, like the first version of Cleanup, it sounds pretty harmless at first, like you're just kind of generating an additional background that wasn't there, maybe to add a little more space to your photo because maybe you accidentally took it too close up or you want to add more space to reframe it. However, I tried this on my own photos, and let's say I expand this one with a crowd in it, well then all of a sudden, it is generating fake signs, fake text, and yes, fake people that weren't there. Apple is creating a fantasy by doing this, and this is no longer an accurate photo. Then there's also this spatial reframing tool, which lets you reframe a shot after you've taken it. Now, yes, at first, the ability to reframe a shot in post sounds like cool technology, and it is impressive technology. But this isn't just reframing a photo you took, it is also generating new information into the photo. I've also had it generate people that weren't there. I even saw someone post an example of this on Twitter on how cool the feature was, and everyone was clowning him in the comments because it generated him with 4 fingers. So it's not just a simple reframing tool using your existing photo. Like even as they were demoing this feature, the presenter was saying how they could reframe a photo they just took of their kids, and I was sitting there watching this thinking, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to change what should be a precious memory, a photo of your literal children, and you want to alter it to the point of being AI generated and fake? I can't think of a scenario where I would want to fake a memory like this, let alone of my children. And I don't even have any children. Like when you use these AI features, the image quality also degrades. It's like you could see the color and soul of these photos being sucked out in real time. And I really wish these tools were not in the Photos app. I don't want any generative AI in my photos. And I kind of don't want my family and friends to have access to this feature. I don't want them sending me fake photos they took. I don't want to live in this world where we don't know what's real and what's fake. And unfortunately, I guess that's just the reality of the current world we're living in. And we're just putting these tools into the hands of even more people to fake reality. Listen, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the old guy now. Maybe I'm a Luddite in some way because I'm not fully embracing all of these AI technologies. But it did come as a surprise to me that Apple is embracing this, especially considering their previous stance. In the grand scheme of things, these generative AI features from Apple are pretty harmless, but it's also like a slippery slope. Like, what comes after this? Is Apple gonna start replacing the moon in their photos too because it looks better? I just don't think things like that are the right path. And I wish, just like how Apple is one of the only tech companies that actually values privacy, I wish there was a tech company that would just say no to all of these generative AI features. And I hope Apple does not continue down this path of adding more generative AI features in the Photos app or in image playgrounds. And please do not add this stuff to your creative apps. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on where Apple is going. Like, there was a lot of exciting stuff. There was a lot of good stuff at WWDC, but I could do without all the generative AI stuff. Maybe I'm alone in this. I would like to hear how you feel. Always good to get another perspective. But yeah, let me know how you feel about this. What did you think of WWDC? And if you like this video, give me a like. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed. And I'll catch you on the next one.